Arise, minions, and welcome to unMadeGaming. We are here. If you saw something, no, you didn't. We are here. This is our new to stream Vaesen campaign. This stream has been going on for, as G reminded me, 3 years. 3 years in October. We started this back in the pandemic times, and we've continued it through. This will be episode 26. Our characters have gone through two entire mystery arcs already. One called A Wicked Secret, and the other called The Author and the Sea. One published in the actual book, the other one a module you can purchase yourself on DriveThruRPG. So this is a Patreon game here. This brand new stream 2 seasons in is because Melissa wants to learn how to do production and back end on streaming. So we're doing a little bit of a fun additional stream here. So unlike our usual streams, there is no corruption bar, but there is always Patreon. And if you guys like what we do here and you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is over on our Patreon, like the majority of these fine folks here. So check that out in the link in the description down below. While you're down there, click on that Discord link, join us in the Discord, be a part of the community, be a part of the conversation. With that, I'm going to turn things over to the players here so they can introduce you all to their characters, and then we'll jump in with a nice little recap of what just happened for them. So with that, I will toss it over to G first. G, who are you? Who are you playing? And what are they up to?
Hi, I'm G, of course. Your friendly neighborhood lightning invoker, and today in the world of Vaesen, I am playing Signe Welker. She is a young private detective. She is a eagle-eyed, sharp-witted young woman who hails from the old world of Scotland, though I will not be doing an accent today. She's 24 years old. She's on the taller side. She's got dark brown curly hair, dark blue eyes, and just to go over some of the Vaesen mechanics, she is a private detective, and how she got introduced into the world of Vaesen is before she left her home village back in Scotland. She was witness to her home village being massacred by very strange creatures. And thus she left and found her way to the new world. One thing she wears around her neck, which is another mechanic, is her memento. She wears you can kind of see it here. She wears a shield knot pendant around her neck. It is a symbol of protection, and carved on the back, it's not carved on this, but carved on the back is a unicursal hexagram, which is a symbol for the men of letters in this campaign. And that is Signe.
Perfect. Let's jump right over to Wintress. Who are you playing? Who are you playing? And give us a little description of this character.
Okay, well, my name is Wintress Odom, and I am playing Martha LeBlanc. She is 17 years old, and she is originally from New Orleans. This is where we're going to be playing today. As far as all of these folks know here, she ran away from her home because her parents were going to make her marry the evil old Mr. Snarfblow. Now, what really happened was that her mother caught her doing automatic writing, which is her secret, and she then sent her to a nunnery thinking that she was evil and possessed. And after the nuns caught her doing the automatic writing, they all sent her collectively with her parents to an insane asylum, where they did crazy insane asylum things to her brain, causing her to then see Vaesen. And she has been able to see Vaesen ever since. She really ran away from the insane asylum, found a nice little house that she thought she was going to be able to keep all to herself. And then these people all seemed to walk in and invade her home. So then she decided to hang out with them, solve some mysteries, and that has been Martha ever since. She likes chocolate and poker, and she's pretty empathetic, when she's not being a brat.
Which is almost never. That being said, John, who are you? Who are you playing? And give us a little description of this character.
Great. I'm John. Really excited to be here today. I am playing Cyrus Kincaid. I will be attempting a Scottish accent, so be kind. And Cyrus is an occultist in the mechanics of the game, a mystic of sorts. When he was a young lad, he was a whaler. His family had a whaling business. He was on a ship with other parts of his family, and that ship was destroyed by a terrible sea monster. Of course, as all great stories go, the secret part of that backstory is, of course, at its root, a story of love, lost, heartbreak, which Cyrus does try to eke out and share as we go along our adventures. He is middle-aged. He's in his 40s. He was retired. But as these things go, the spirit world coerced him to join back up and join these individuals to help them in their hunting of the Vaesen that are plaguing the world. Sometimes acts as a mentor, sometimes guide, definitely not as leader. It's just a man with experience, but definitely someone who have seen both the excitement and pardon the pun, the horror of all of each of these missions.
Hell yeah. Next up, Matt, who are you? Who are you playing? And give us a little description of this character.
So I'm playing a character named William Whalen. He is in his mid-30s. He is a doctor. He was brought up in a very well-to-do family in around Philadelphia, and against his family's wishes and commands, he refused to pay the God, I'm forgetting now. It was like $300 or $400 you could buy your way out of service in the Civil War. He chose not to. He was a medical student at the time, wanted to serve, so he joined the medical corps of the Northern armies and saw a lot of awful shit. He was serving on the front line, amputations and all the horrible stuff that everybody has seen from the Civil War. He was, in fact, in the middle of teaching some procedures when actually the whole tent was attacked by a werewolf. He was so freaked out about it that he basically hid under a table and feels a lot of regret and shame that he didn't do more at the time. And he carries with him a memento of that. There was actually a very large claw that got wedged inside of one of the tent poles. And he carries that around as for some reason, reminder, even though he, whenever anybody in the last two campaigns that we had, or campaigns, right? Is that the right word?
Seasons?
Yeah. Seasons? Yeah. Last two seasons has brought up werewolves. His entire demeanor has changed. He was always a quiet individual, had a stutter, had a lot of trouble talking and socializing, and that's been something that he's been working through for the last couple seasons. Between the last season and this one, some interesting revelations have come out of Austria from this guy named Freud and the use of cocaine, which has actually helped him get over his stutter. However, being a doctor and doing a lot of self-medication to help him sleep at night. So he's basically, his dark secret is he is a fairly moderate drug addict at this point. He has to knock himself out at night and now has to boost himself back up to get up in the day. So that has come out here and there, but not really known except for possibly Alec, who incidentally, Alec, Melissa's character, is his cousin, younger cousin, who was actually also training in the medical corps at the time and was actually witness to that attack that she had. At this point, we haven't really had to do a lot of doctoring, so it's more from a role-playing aspect that he does his stuff than anything else. We haven't had any wounds yet to heal.
It's very hard to heal corpses, and you've had plenty of those.
Well, that's not true. We did have that one, like the dead priest outside of the church. He got to analyze that. So that was some stuff there. But
mostly autopsies is luck would have it.
And I'm perfectly fine keeping it that way because we're not a bunch of murder hobos. This isn't that type of game. So
that's true.
Otherwise, we'd be playing D&D.
Yeah.
Doctor in the style of Dana Scully.
Yeah. Perfect segue over. Right. Perfect segue over to Melissa. Who are you playing? And give us a little description of your character.
Hi, y'all. You know me. I'm Melissa Meyer, Draftier in the Discord. I am playing Alec McKinley. Alec was born in a prominent and successful family in Concord, the very same family as Williams, just a different branch of it. Her parents raised her as a transcendentalist. And as such, she believes in nature as divine, that all people are inherently wise if only they can throw off all of those expectations of society. And she is opposed to industrialization. As the resident academic of the Men of Letters, Alec is a student of all knowledge and all topics, most especially if it can be found in a written form. He is somewhat tall and lean with very distinguished features. The color of their hair is very unremarkable altogether, but they usually wear it up in an updo. And by day, unless the Men of Letters are expecting to be wandering around in the beauties of nature, they generally dress sharply in whatever is fashionable in men's attire. Their pronouns are he, she, they. Alec in general is personally unattached to gender as a concept. Their goal is just to, as the transcendentalist would say, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else. That is the greatest accomplishment. As William mentioned, Alec is their cousin. Alec was there the day that William experienced the trauma, and that too was Alec's great trauma. At the time, Alec was studying to learn nursing skill, but ultimately was frightened away from that and has returned to what they are most comfortable with, which is academics. They also have a dog named Emerson, who is a bloodhound and is the very best boy.
Perfect. Okay, so a very small recap of what has happened thus far. In season 1, A Wicked Secret, all of these people got together. They had all received either research or information or a summons of kind that brought them together in New Arkham, Rhode Island, specifically to a place called Coven Crest Manor, the site that once belonged to the Men of Letters, a now defunct group of supernatural investigators. Through no fault of their own, these people came together, and shortly thereafter, a letter arrived beckoning them to the town of Grindstone, Maine, where a missing person out of Bangor, Maine. A missing person case had been submitted, but things seemed strange. So they went to investigate, found out that there was a secret cult in the town, a secret ritual temple underneath an ancient stone church, and a being called the Church Grim defended the church and therefore the temple that was underneath it from any would-be usurpers or threats against the church. Successfully putting the creature down and ending the threat, all eyes turned to blame the cult leader, and the investigators quickly left the town and the woman to her fate. Returning back to New Arkham, Rhode Island, they set up their home, what they had now agreed to be their home for the near future, when a second letter arrived, coming from a a well-to-do, essentially hotel owner in a place called Fisher's Island, New York, off the coast of southern Connecticut, where they went to find that there had been several missing authors. Over the past few months, several authors had gone missing under mysterious circumstances. No bodies were found. No actual cases were filed. They were assumed to have died of natural causes, swimming, the elements, though no one was found. Come to find out, there had been a tragedy that had befallen the island, to include a tryst with a young woman and a rich person from New York City, a child out of wedlock, and it spurned the attention of a doppelganger who took control of the young woman's body and began murdering anyone who would be a would-be suitor. These intrepid investigators quickly got to the bottom of the doppelganger, found a ritual to rid the world of said doppel, and broke the girl from her curse, saving her and her family, and potentially the hotel, who kept losing its patrons. Now we have returned back to New Arkham, and that's where we pick things up. So, previously on Mundus Novus, after returning from Fisher's Island, New York, our investigators set about to refamiliarize themselves with the grounds of Covencrest Manor and her surroundings. Venturing into New Arkham proper to make nice with the locals, offer what services they were able to, and to hire laborers to reconstruct the chapel on manor grounds. Late one November evening, after the construction was complete, the butler, Niles, presented a letter to Cyrus, requesting his aid in a strange matter in New Orleans. Oh no. The letter reads, actually, before I read this, Cyrus, have we presented the entire letter to the group, or have we just presented the Cyrus doctored letter? I believe it was just the doctored letter.
I think I only read the doctored letter, but I think at this point it doesn't matter as much because I did talk to Martha about the contents of the middle part, but I don't think we shared that more broadly.
Okay, so then I will read the one you read.
Great.
Dearest Mr. Kincaid, I pen this letter with the utmost urgency as our fair city of New Orleans is plunged into turmoil and fear. Night after night, ghastly murders claim the lives of our fellow citizens, leaving families bereft and our community paralyzed with terror. The constables are baffled, and local news is filled with grim tales and dreadful speculations. I myself have sensed an unnatural aura about these occurrences, as if there is something lurking beneath the surface, hidden from common eyes. In the shadows of this great city, I have witnessed strange symbols, and howls have filled the night air with an eerie lament. I dare not speak of this to others, for they may think me mad. Yet I believe you, who delved into the realms beyond, may understand. I humbly request your immediate assistance. Enclosed, please find my address and an offer of modest accommodation should you accept my plea. Yours in desperate hope, Madeleine Boudreau, New Orleans, Louisiana. So we pick up inside Covencrest Manor. The letter has been read. You all have taken the charge and have begun your preparations to leave New Arkham and head towards New Orleans. Some of you have gone about town to procure a dog named Emerson. Some of you have procured a fancy red wig. So let's go around as far as preparations and things you're going to do in Covencrest before you leave for New Orleans, which, unfortunately, due to Mr. Cyrus Kincaid's predilection to avoid the open sea, will take you a train ride to New York, switching trains to Pittsburgh, then a riverboat down the Ohio River, switching to a steamboat on the Mississippi, and tugging all the way down to New Orleans. It will take you, give or take, 3 weeks to make this journey. It would have taken you less time had you boarded a ship and sailed around Florida and to Louisiana. However, that would bring you on open ocean, and some of us are not comfortable with the sea for some reason.
Don't care. Don't care.
It would have saved you a week, but you know, what's a week among friends?
It could have saved us 3 months. Still wouldn't care.
So all of you are in Covencrest Manor preparing for this journey. What are you doing? And I'm going to go around in the same sort of semicircle we did before of the intro. So we'll start
I don't
with,
want to go first.
damn it.
Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. I have to think.
So we'll start with Martha. Martha,
Sorry.
how are you preparing to return home?
Well, Martha is very excited about the new chapel, so she spends quite a bit of time there, reconnecting with her religion. And then in addition, she goes shopping. As you mentioned earlier, she bought a very exciting red wig, and she has a brand new wardrobe and a veil, because she is going to make sure that nobody recognizes her in New Orleans, and she figures this makes her very inconspicuous.
Perfect. I assume you have packed a half dozen steamer trunks of, or are you traveling light this time?
Oh no. We'll take at least 2 steamer trunks, and assume that William and Cyrus will help carry them.
Of course, of course. Speaking of Cyrus, how are you preparing for this journey?
Cyrus just puts together his his bag, his satchel, with his occulty items, some candles, and his crystal ball, of course, and packs very light. He's having been to New Orleans before. He just basically is pulling together his normal casual wear, just kind of just trousers, light shirt, kind of thin bossy shirts, and his duster, and that's about it. Doesn't go crazy. I think I already picked up my lock picks from the last session we prepped, so he's ready to go. He just
are you doing anything research or supernatural wise to prepare yourself for what could be waiting for you in New Orleans?
I don't think so. I think he's gonna get the lay of the land once we're in New Orleans, and then he'll start delving. He's of course listening for anything that the spirit world might give him, but I'm assuming that they're at least quiet at this point. So
same question for William. How are you preparing for this journey? What are you up to?
So he obviously would have stocked up on all his various pharmaceutical supplies, though he does feel very confident that he'll be able to get whatever he needs wherever he's at. He does feel a little bit trepidatious about traveling to the South, considering where he served in the Civil War. Though being a doctor, he had to treat both Union soldiers and Confederate soldiers who were captured. So he does have the dispassion, or he does it dispassionately, does not care in that regard, but he will probably be keeping his service a bit of a secret, unless he knows the person that he's speaking to, or they know him. I assume he made some contacts while in the army, for instance. Before he left, because of the last 2 sessions, having had the threat of werewolves loomed over his head and not come to fruition, of course, each time freaking out, he probably would have swapped out the ammunition for his revolver that he carries around in his medicine bag or pocket at any given time with silver bullets, as a just in case. His paranoia level is rising, in part because of the threat, the constant reminders of it, and also just paranoia of prolonged drug use. He's kind of getting there. Otherwise, he's going to either be found in the bar car of whatever boat or steamship they're on, or sipping tea on deck, reading whatever medical journal he may have brought along, or any kind of local newspaper.
I just had a vision of William several mysteries in, with just the hint of werewolves always on his tail, in a basement somewhere, just kind of being crazy about werewolves and like just melting down whatever silver's in the house. It's like, they're coming any minute now. The werewolves.
Yeah, like
here.
Buried in a
Green
bunker,
prepper.
the crazy prepper mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That will eventually be him.
Full of stolen silver and then silver bullets. It's just silver flintlock rounds.
The butler Niles is excuse me, Mr. Cyrus, do you happen to know where all the silverware went?
He's hiding it in his room because it keeps disappearing.
I've got a pretty good idea, but I don't know.
Perfect. All right. Next up is Alec. So Melissa, what is Alec doing to prepare for this? Obviously, you already purchased Emerson, but how are you preparing for the journey? What is our resident professor doing?
Well, Alec is maybe a bit unimaginative. So, as you know, Alec is very much a creature of routine, believes in cultivating the mind, body, and spirit. And so part of that routine is morning walks in the garden with the girls, afternoon walks with Cyrus and others through the woods. For the body, for the soul, that is also through the gardens and the woods, of course. But for the mind, when not occupied doing those things, Alec would have been visiting town, and specifically would probably have dropped down by the library and would have been taking notes about anything that might have been relevant to New Orleans. So we're looking at books of history, maybe travelers' guides for a better idea of what might be true in the present, local flora and fauna, maybe even the almanac to check the weather. And all of this would have taken extensive notes to anything they found, would probably also have checked out books to take along with, even understanding that it might be weeks and those books would likely become overdue. But, you know, Alec doesn't need to tell the librarian that. When returning to Covencrest Manor, Alec generally travels around with what they would consider to be a small selection of books, but what other people would consider a small library of books. Travels with those in a carpet bag, you know, very reminiscent of Mary Poppins carpet bag. And would have put in that carpet bag the notebook from the library, any notes they checked out, and then would have traded out books from Covencrest Manor's library and their own personal library. Adding on top to all of those, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce this book, so maybe you can help me with this, Mike.
Oh, I don't speak German.
This Signe, I'm not going to pronounce it. We have a German book that has some Vaesen in it, and so Alec will be taking that along. And I am, through all these preparations, working towards an advantage, whatever advantage you think that might be, Mike.
Okay. It is a German dissertation that translates to something. It's like a book about the soul.
Vaesen Schnitzel.
Vaesen Schnitzel, the book. How to cook your Vaesen. Here, let me see. Translate to English. What are you called? The Hessian, or the Hessian. I forget how the heck they pronounce that. The Hessian Book of Legends of the Soul, of Soul Legends. It's basically what the conversion there is. Okay, cool. So we'll start with we'll get to you, G. Don't worry. So for Alec, going through history books and recently relevant news, obviously you know that, let's say 10-15 years ago or so, the Union occupied Confederate New Orleans, took it over, freed it from the control of the South. Things have improved. There has been a reconstruction. The city itself, the Crescent City, is a hub of international trade, owing to the massive cane plantations that are popular in Louisiana. There is a explosion of art and music that is happening currently, given the state of the world that we're in. And some 30 or 40 years ago, depending, there was a mass cholera outbreak Thousands of people died in this. Those are just the bullet points of historical things you find out about the place. Obviously, you can find that it was, in early 19th century, it was purchased by the United States from Napoleon. There's a whole thing there. You can know all of the basic history of the Louisiana Purchase and all of that. You also find information on lore about this place. The people of Haiti came over into Louisiana and brought with them some of their culture. So there's been a bleed of some of that culture. Obviously, with the state of the world, you have the French, you have the African American, you have now the Haitian, and you have the English colonist, all forming a hodgepodge of beliefs and fears and Vaesen that they all bring with them. This sort of forms essentially a Vaesen gumbo here in the city. So finding legends about New Orleans is pretty easy. You can throw a rock and you'll hit a legend here. You also know that it is believed by architects that the city may or may not be sinking, which is just really unfortunate.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. So one of the biggest legends, which sticks out in your mind here, is the loup-garou. However, in your research, you find there are two variants that you keep seeing of the loup-garou. One is the more common loup-garou, based off of the French word loup and garou based off the Germanic gerulf, meaning a werewolf. The legends are what you would expect of a werewolf. Something in around the full moon. It's not sure if it's pinpointed to the one day or the 3 days on either side of it. Silver may or may not harm them. The cross may or may not harm them. There's no actual factual evidence. These seem to be fantastical recounts or outright fairy tale stories of them. You also find a lesser used version of the loup-garou coming from the French Haitian side, which describes usually a woman, an older woman, who has the ability to doff her skin at night, grow wings of flame, and murder and consume children to preserve her ever-living body. You see lesser versions of that to describe witchcraft. You know that from your studies, you've seen that same sort of older woman, night-based, the murder of children motif plays a lot with also European stories of witchcraft. And you can see how that crossover between French Haitian culture could have made what this is. So you see two instances of loup-garou. And both of those stand out in your mind as the letter that was read to you included strange symbols and howls filling the air in an eerie lament. So those stick out to you from the letter from Madeleine Boudreau. I will give you an advantage, the mechanic, for this research that you may use to further the mystery here once you get to New Orleans. That being said, Miss Signe Welker, you've had enough time to figure it out?
Yeah, more or less. So what Signe's been doing in her off time, up until their departure to New Orleans, as she's been kind of secreting herself away in her room, and she's pondering. She is surrounding herself with a boatload of charcoal drawings, which last episode kind of oddly tied in this adventure that they're going on. She's had a vision at the end of their last adventure, where she witnessed the death of a group of people very violently. And what she learned from Cyrus is that the place that she saw this happen, or the aftermath of it happen, was New Orleans. she expressed her concern that taking this new mission might come with some dangers. What she did not express to them was that the people that she saw murdered in an alley lying in pools of blood were everybody here: Martha, Alec, Cyrus, William, and herself. She has kept that piece of information a secret. So she has been withdrawn. She still goes for walks if Alec engages with her, but she doesn't go out of her way to do anything on her own. When she goes into town, she frequents the local pubs because she is a private investigator. So she's trying to get to know a lot of the locals. A lot of it is for like off-duty constables, other people in the police force, newsies, anyone who might have information of the local area. Just so she can learn about New Arkham. But when it turns out they are traveling to New Orleans, a place she's never been, she's actually going to try and procure Michael a copy of a New Orleans newspaper. Because I don't know if this happens back in the day, but when newspapers were a thing, you could get newspapers from other. Obviously, they'd be like weeks old, maybe. But you could get newspapers from other major cities in the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can procure a newspaper. It is weeks old. It is likely before any of the murders started, or probably just as they started. So nothing in the actual newspaper is about said murders. However, the newspaper is called the Crescent Observer.
Crescent Observer. Is this like a main like a main
it's a local city newspaper. It's not like the Louisiana Times. It's specific to New Orleans. New Orleans is also known as the Crescent City, and that's kind of the moniker of the of this place. You do, as you read through this newspaper, you do get a sense from this. Actually, I'll say, G, you get a sense from this, right? You can determine how your character, being from the old country, and here, this reads to you like half news, half tabloid. There is mention of the supernatural. There is mention to sorcery and witchcraft in the city. There is made mention of a woman named Marie Laveau, to which they call her the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. She seems to be, as the paper would have you believe, the head witch in New Orleans. There are, editorial expositions on who they think the crime might be. It seems very opinionated and less factual than other newspapers you've seen, but it does seem to be a well-regarded newspaper.
So kind of like the sense I'm getting of New Orleans is that it's possible that there is a huge underground of people who actually believe in the supernatural, right? So you get the sense that there are a lot of let's say old world practitioners, of people who have kept the faith, of the things that that you were used to back home, people leaving a bowl of milk out for a tamta, right? Things like that. You also get the sense that on the more capitalistic side of things, that there are an equally large number of people playing that up for business. Yeah. Okay.
Would Signe have shared what she's finding in the newspaper with the rest of us?
Yeah.
Okay, then Mike, would Cyrus know anything about the voodoo queen?
Ooh,
Marie Laveau.
Laveau.
Having heard of her by reputation,
You would have
could we
heard of
possibly
her.
met her?
I would say you have not met her.
Okay.
Only because you are who you are. You have heard of her in reputation. Where she is and what she has gotten to, she is in high-end parlors. She is at the behest of the elite of the city, performing seances and that kind of thing. She's a woman in demand, and all other spiritual practitioners in the city sort of have a allegiance is too strong of a word, but I can't think of a better one. Owe some sort of pseudo fealty to her, as she is the head priestess of the city, right? So any citywide spiritual celebrations or practices go through her, kind of thing. But she is a premier psychic in the bounds of the city. People travel far and wide to see her and have an audience with her. But usually it is the elite, and it's quite expensive to have. So you have heard of her in reputation, but never would have met her in person.
So the only reputational thing I think that would be of interest to Cyrus is reputationally, based on the circles, his occult circles. Does he think that she is the real deal, or that she is just kind of the showpiece Charlotte? Yeah, whatever, right? Just using that for gain, or is she actually juiced in?
Interesting.
And maybe he doesn't know, right? Maybe he doesn't have that, but
I'm gonna let you answer your own question, but I will help inform it. You have heard that what she has seen and told people has come to pass or has been accurate. However, you also know that she does a lot of it for monetary and reputational gain. So
okay,
whether it is all true or some of it is sort of trumped up to be more than it is up for debate. But she does seem to have a gift that could be incredible theatrics. You're not entirely sure, but it does seem other people believe that she is real.
Okay. I'll share that. I'll share that with Signe in that, she has some talent, but as to how she uses that talent, it's questionable in Cyrus's mind. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that would come out as, because Signe's looking. I'm assuming just because people who are writing these articles, and obviously the reference to Laveau is that she's getting like a list of people who they could, in theory, do their investigations with, like go and interview, So she'd be like, this queen, Marie Laveau, is someone we should talk to, and then Cyrus would be like, yeah, you just don't walk in and talk to the queen, This one doesn't really do so. Yeah, so he's like, he would like educate her a little bit in that regard. But yeah, it's like, well, at least we have a list of people, hopefully, who can help point us in the right direction. Are we going to need money for this?
Like any big city, you're going to need some money, yeah.
Greasing a lot of pockets, is that the phrase people use nowadays?
We should
it
be
also
fine,
depends
Signe.
on. Yeah, it also depends on who we end up talking to.
Mm-hmm. Lots of
Alec
too.
and William will be able to grease all the palms we need to.
Oh no, the term's grease the pockets, guys.
Grease the pockets, sorry.
Look,
Very,
That's
very
gonna
messy
stick.
pockets.
I'm Scottish, okay?
Yeah, the famous Scottish phrase, grease the pockets.
It is now.
Oh, golly. Oh man, that's a good time right there.
There's nothing better than a greasy pocket.
No,
Shit.
no, gross. Jesus.
Sure, it's like, I guess if you keep your haggis in your pocket, it gets greasy.
You know?
and that's a Scottish
Yeah.
thing. You know what?
Ew.
It's more of an oil, okay? Right.
to kill Tav pockets. Okay, so everyone eventually after so it's been, let's say it's been several days after receiving the letter. It's going to take you guys some time to acclimate, get prepared, buy wigs, dogs, books, newspapers, etc. Everyone has returned to Covencrest Manor. And let's say you're in the sitting room, right? So off the main entrance left of the foyer, you are in the sitting room of Covencrest Manor, a place you are oft to be. A drawing table off to one side. Niles has placed a silver tray, a silver plated.
It's
Just
not
to be
silver.
clear. Yeah,
Not anymore.
silver plated tray full of tea and small cakes, cucumber sandwiches, and the like. And he has backed out of the room unless anyone stops him, leaving all of you there to discuss your findings. Signe, her newspaper, Cyrus, his insights on that, Alec, his history and lore findings, to discuss what your plans are and how you are to approach the journey and the mystery. So this is basically before you have left. You have already procured tickets, several trains and several downriver boats. What are you guys doing in the, let's say, the last night before your journey starts?
One thing that Signe is doing, subtly, is she keeps eyeing Cyrus. Because last time
Cyrus
we were
is used to that, really.
yes, glancing every so often, and because one thing that something caught her eye the last time they were all sitting together, and it was passed to me in secret by Michael, but I will reveal it here a little bit just for some meta knowledge. Out of the corner of her eye, just a fleeting second, around regarding Cyrus, is she saw a shadow or a darkness surrounding him. Blink of an eye, and it was gone. And she's been glancing every so often, maybe out of paranoia or curiosity, and she's trying to see if she sees that again.
You always see it. Anytime you look away from Cyrus, you see this strange, almost like a cloud of gnats around him. That if you focus on it, it's gone. But if you catch it out of the corner of your eye, you'll see it. Or if you glance quickly past him, you may see it in passing.
Okay.
But anytime you look directly at him, it is gone.
So she's like doing that a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
So you
Yeah.
could have kept that meta knowledge yourself. That would have been great. And two, I hate you, Mike.
Don't write things in your backstory and expect me not to fuck with you. We've learned this on several campaigns together, John. This is your own fault.
Okay, maybe I'm a little slow.
This is on you, not me.
This is so I'm not like creeping out, checking out Cyrus without anyone knowing what the context of it is. So
Alec absolutely thinks Signe is checking out Cyrus. So as the evening progresses, I think Alec,
and she has a book with tea. That's it.
Alec will Alec's gonna pour William a glass of whiskey, and then a little later is gonna pour him another glass of whiskey.
Jesus.
And after Alec, or after William seems to be in a more relaxed state.
It's going to take more than two. He's built up a
maybe
tolerance.
And these are tall glasses.
Okay.
So then maybe a third.
It's like an iced tea
Alec,
glass of.
Alec will just push an opened book at him across the table and tap on Lugaroo or the description of a Lugaroo. And then on the other page, overlapping the other page of the book, we'll lay down the letter that Cyrus received, and we'll tap where it says that there is an animal that has been howling in the night.
So I imagine William probably would have been nose deep in a book or a newspaper, and like, you know, Alec could like come over and just pull the newspaper down and hand him the thing, the book, and his eyes will get wide, and he'll quickly glance up at Alec, and probably just, you know, the whatever he has left in the glass that he currently had would be just a little shaky, and he'll say, well, it's keeps coming up, and he'll grit his teeth and toss back whatever is left in the glass, and put it back down onto the table next to him, next to the chair, much too hard, not enough to break it, but definitely enough to have eyes look up at him from around the room, as we all tend to hang out in the nice little fireplace lounge, and lean back, close his eyes, and sigh, and then just probably not move for a little bit.
Alec will clap him on the shoulder and will say, all will be well. My prescription for you, doctor, is knowledge. As we know, knowledge is the antidote to fear.
He'll, as she says, as I say this, they'll probably put his hand into his jacket pocket, and just kind of be, you would see him just kind of moving his hand around, and he's basically holding on to a very large claw that he carries around with him as he sits there with his face in a very almost like forced, eyes closed, scrunched up look, deep in thought, and still not move and not respond verbally.
So everyone heard the bang of the glass in this room. Has anyone else responded to this conversation? The room is only so big, and whispers carry. There's only so much they can do to not be heard in tight quarters. Everyone's attention was drawn to the clatter of the glass being put down aggressively. How are you responding to this?
So Cyrus has been talking to Wyla just about New Orleans in general. He assumes that she's never been to a city that big before. So he's just telling her a little bit about the city, about what to expect, just so she's not freaked out. Here's the glass slam. Of course, that would stop conversation. And just kind of looks over at William and just kind of keeps an eye on him, but goes back to his conversation about essentially nothing, just to kind of just give William a little bit of space.
Wyla follows suit. She confirms that the largest place she'd ever been was Bangor, Maine, when you guys traveled through it. And this is the largest place she's ever stayed in for any amount of time. And traveling through New York and Mystic and the other places with you guys has been the most she's seen of the world outside of the forested town of Grindstone. And then as soon as you start to quiet down and sort of maintain your conversation, she loses a bit of composure and notices the glass, and then like her conversation trails off as she is trying to casually observe as well, but also forgets that she has to talk to cover the casual observation. So there's like a mumble, and then we went to New York. And then
He just keeps encouraging. This in Cyrus's mind, this is training. Come on, Lila, you can get this.
Yeah. She slowly is edging over her vision towards like it was just like peripheral, and then the head slowly started to turn, and then the peripherals got more centered. Eventually she realizes that you are looking at her, and she snaps back to it, and quickly starts to try to make up for lost time and begin a conversation with a little bit too much excitement. What are Martha and Signe doing as this scene unfolds?
Well, if William slammed a glass down, then Martha would have jumped up to try, if there's any like spilled like over or anything, or if there was any mess at all, she would have jumped up, as her womanly duty would necessitate, to immediately clean up after him. And then he would, if it looked like somewhat empty and he seems obviously upset, probably grab the bottle from Alec and pour him another one. All the while kind of looking at him like, does he need anything else? And would she see the book laying there? Is that still there? Open?
Alec?
Oh yes, it's sitting there on the table, and on the other side of it, laying over top it, is the letter.
So if the book has does the book is all words, or does the book have any pictures? The picture of a rougarou?
I imagine that there would be some crude drawings of them.
Oh, I know what that is. That's a rougarou. You don't have to worry about them. All you do is you put 13 objects outside your door every night, and they can't count to 13. They get very confused, and then they run away. So you don't have to worry.
He'll crack one eye open as she says this, and kind of, you'll see one edge of his mouth kind of like rise up, like he was going to smile or smirk at the comment, but it quickly disappears, and he'll nod, and just his face will relax a little, the humor of it kind of distracting him a little bit, and still sit there with his eyes closed, but his breathing will have slowed a little bit more relaxed after she said that.
Yes, thank you, Miss Martha. As I said, knowledge is the antidote to fear.
Exactly. And this is common knowledge. Just that's what my mother Agnes always used to tell me, is just to put the 13 things outside your door every day, anytime you were worried about the rougarou.
No knowledge is common, Martha.
Martha just looks confused at that, and then goes back to, she was doing some little knitting for little Eddie. She's now made him at least 15 outfits,
all of which he tries to avoid wearing.
Who's Eddie?
The
Raven.
Martha, you would also know, and you alone, for obvious reasons, the rougarou is nothing to worry about for anybody apart from the 13 objects, which is very simple to have. They only hunt down Catholics who don't observe the rules of Lent. So as long as you observe the rules of Lent, you're fine, and you won't get eaten by a hairy hellbeast. You'll be fine. So nothing to worry about here in this house.
The problem is every Lent Martha gives up sweets for Lent, and it always fails to keep Lent. So yeah,
which is why I constantly have the 13 things outside my door.
Yeah, exactly. Just always that's what Eddie's for. He just finds baubles and brings them outside the door. Perfect.
I don't think that's going to help William any though, since Philadelphia colonial, he's a good Protestant, so
yeah.
Lent, what's that?
Well,
come
on. Signe, did we get what you were doing as well during this time?
She's just sitting in a large like wingback chair, like her feet curled up underneath her, and she's got like her tea sitting on the armrest on a saucer, and she's probably flipping through like a book that Alec lent her. It's like probably something that's good for like calming your soul and reconnecting, you know. But she's of course she has the book open and she keeps glancing at Cyrus, and then she's flipping the pages, but she's not reading. And then when the bang on the table happens, she looks, she doesn't say anything, she's just observing like she usually does. She takes in all the information, and she's specifically just noting how William's reacting, and how Alec has been plying him with several drinks already. And she like raises an eyebrow and flips a page. And then when Martha goes over and she's tending to him and like, oh, that's the third, she doesn't say anything again. She raises her other eyebrow, listening, and flips a page. And then yeah, but she won't say anything. She might grab her tea and have a sip. Yeah.
Alec, as you have perused the book a little bit more into the legends and lore of the Lugaroo, you realize that the two versions of Lugaroo, the one that is a werewolf and the one that is possibly a witch, the wolf one still bears additional allusion to witches, at least in the Northeast. So much like in the Northeast during the 16th century, in the witch trials, it was basically, did something bad happen? Was a woman near it? That's a witch. Pretty cut and dry court case. In New Orleans and in the Louisiana area, similar effect. Did something bad happen? Do you all think that it was a Lugaroo? Yes. Case closed. And sometimes they would find the person who they believe was the Lugaroo. So there is further allusion to that being a scapegoat, in essence, is if they could not solve the crime or believed the crime was done in a way that could only have been done by a shape-changing monster, that was case closed. So that became a scapegoat for crimes and the things we don't, the things too dark to deal with. And then it grew to take on a life of its own. So that's the academia approach to things. So you've read the legends from people written by those astute enough to write them, and you've read the essentially the transcriptions of things that had happened based on this from the academic world, which says that's all a farce. It's not real. It's just local legends and whatever. Somewhat better that there may or may not be actual werewolves, and there may be things that go bump in the night that science can't prove. But that is what you have in that book.
When it seems that William has calmed down, I think Alec will go on at length about their thoughts and theories related to Lugaroo and New Orleans, essentially covering everything that you just said. But when that is done, they will add, in our last two investigations, while there were certainly Vaesen that had to be managed, we should remember that neither of those situations would have occurred without the interference of perhaps some not well-meaning individuals in Mr. Soren and Mary Chamberlain.
Agreed. I will tell you, in all the experience I have, it's more often we'll call them the normal folk that are the ones with evil in their hearts. The Vaesen are often just trying to make their living, live out their lives like anyone else. Some are bad, just like kind of less powerful people, just trying to get by, be happy. Some are bad, some are not. So we have to be careful. But yeah, people are often much worse, and generally many more of them. So we have to watch ourselves and really understand what we're getting ourselves into, particularly in such a large city.
Signe nods. You've all been there before, so I'll have to be following your lead on this. But from what I'm gathering from this newspaper that I acquired here, I think Cyrus is right on very many levels. There's a lot of people that are mentioned in this newspaper who seem to know a lot about the supernatural. And from what you've told me, Cyrus, some it is true and some of it is embellished for monetary gain. So another reason why we need to be on our guard. I don't know who we're going to be able to trust down there. It's possible that someone is going to be giving us wrong information. There's another reason why I'm apprehensive about this whole affair.
Well, it is still clear from your newspapers there that there is definitely a problem. Something terrible is happening to some folks, and part of being in this group is to face it head on. Maybe scared. We keep pushing through and try to do what's right.
And hopefully this Madeline Boudreau will be able to shed a little bit more details, such as these strange symbols, as she mentioned, that could be very telling.
Have you remembered anything more detailed from the vision that you had, Signe? It does seem to correlate very heavily with what we're doing.
She looks down for a split second and then back right up at you. No. I've only had the dream once.
All right.
It's going to be a long day tomorrow. I'm going to turn in.
Yes. She looks to Martha and Wilo. Ladies, perhaps we should also be turning in bright and early. Martha?
Oh, yes. Martha had turned her attentions to a little bag of baubles she's putting together for William, and then hands him a little bag with 7 7 cursed pirate coins, a shiny clam shell, a jagged piece of glass, and a couple other small baubles that she's picked up along the way.
You
to
can't
number
get rid of those
13.
cursed coins.
I'm assuming Cyrus doesn't see you take the coins, because he will definitely say something about the cursed coins.
Yes, so anyway, so I would give that to William and say, here, just put this outside your door tonight and they will not bother you at all.
He'll chuckle because at this point he's held it in long enough and say thank you and take them, and he totally will, because he's not going to hurt anybody's feelings.
And Signe will stand up and she'll be like, come on, ladies, let us go. Speaking
Cyrus,
specifically to Martha and Wilo.
yes, Cyrus will stand as well and say, Signe, if you would, after we get Martha and Wilo tucked away, a word with you, if you wouldn't mind.
She quickly glances and then back to the ladies. Sure. 10 minutes.
Once you draw attention to Wilo to leave, she realizes that she was staring at William again. Quickly snaps her mouth shut and wordlessly, with her head down, follows behind Martha as if she got caught doing what she wasn't supposed to be doing, which was staring, which was being a terrible spy. So she follows Signe and Martha up to their quarters, and into Martha's room. where we see we see one small travel bag that is all of the things that Wyla owns, and then a dozen trunks and dressers and dress bags all hung up and opened around the room, which are all the things that Martha owns. Alec, you're turning in for the night as well. Are you doing anything when you return to your...
Nothing beyond the norm. We'll get dressed in her nightgown, we'll light a candle, and we'll read the essays of Ralph Waldo Emerson, to ensure that she is committing these important thoughts to mind.
Okay. William, are you also turning in for the night?
Yeah, after setting the 13 things outside of his door and praying that he doesn't step on them in the morning.
Little count drop.
Because one of them is a shard of glass.
He
She's
will
found on a beach.
set it all up and then set out to medicate himself, because no matter how much of his mood improving from the humor from Martha, he will still be a little messed up because of the book and the letter. So the laudanum will definitely be coming out tonight.
Yeah, and it mixes well with whiskey. So
absolutely.
The irony is that the closest at hand or most readily available whiskey you had was the bootlegged whiskey that may or may not have been created by vagrant werewolves on Fisher Island.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
More
so the
werewolves.
werewolf whiskey added laudanum and a baker's dozen of shiny baubles and dangerous shrapnel sit outside your door to protect you from the things that go bump in the night.
William has like a huge collection of whiskey because he bought a case, and then Martha also bartered for a couple bottles to gift to him.
That's right.
Actually, I think that's backwards, wasn't it? Didn't I just get like a couple bottles and she bought a whole case?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So I'm gonna cut back over to Martha and Wyla's room. Once Signe leaves. Signe, is there anything you're doing other than dropping the girls off at their room before you return to Cyrus?
Yeah, because she said 10 minutes. She would just go into her bedroom and like straighten papers that are already straightened, like pick them up, like put her journal.
Anxiety cleaning, I get it.
Yeah, and then she will take a deep breath and make her way back down.
Okay. So before we rejoin Signe and Cyrus, we cut to the bedroom of teens. As I assume Martha is going through whatever hour-long procedure is your nightly routine, and Wyla is done in seconds. But she sits on the edge of the plush bed and she looks to you and she says, You're from New Orleans?
Oh, yes. Yeah. My parents, they wanted to marry me off and I didn't want to do that. So I ran away, but I am from New Orleans.
Okay, so that answers my first question. I was wondering how they let you just leave with strangers. Are you? I assume you're not excited to see them?
No, that's why I have this disguise. See, because I don't want anybody to see me in New Orleans, especially Mr. Snarfblaw, because that's who they were going to marry me to. And he's like really old and nasty, and he really had a thing for me, and it was really gross. And so I really just can't be seen. So that's why I've got this disguise, and you can see nobody will ever notice me in this. I'm just going to blend right in and just don't tell anybody who I am.
Oh. I don't want this to sound insensitive. Does everyone dress as big as you in New Orleans?
Well, that depends. But there are quite a few people with some flair for, fashion. in New Orleans. This is very, inconspicuous there.
Oh, okay. So I'm new at the I'm good in the forest, but I'm new at the people side of it. If we all dress kind of like how we dress with pants, mostly pants, and not a lot of color, wouldn't you look more conspicuous if you're traveling with us and dressed with so many ruffles?
Well, you're not really going to wear that while you're there, are you?
Well, I mean, this is my nightshirt, but I have the brown pants or the darker brown pants
Mm-hmm.
that I could wear.
Don't worry, I've got plenty packed. And I'll just make sure that you blend right in.
Okay. I blend in with the rest of the people we're traveling with, if that does that matter?
When we get there, you'll see. I just know exactly what you're gonna wear.
Oh, okay.
You'll love it.
And okay. Well, it'll be interesting. You'll be our guide. You'll know where to go.
I do. I know all of the places, and all of the things. And since I can't wear most of my clothes there because people would know it was me, you can wear my clothes.
Then wouldn't they think that I'm you?
Well, no, because you don't look like me. So they'll just figure it was resale.
I don't know what that is, but okay, if that's fine, I'll do that. Okay. Is it going to take me that long to get ready every day?
I mean, we can cut it down by about 15 minutes, maybe.
Oh, okay. I will let Alec know, because that will cut into walk time, and I'll let Cyrus know because that will cut into training time.
Excellent.
Okay.
It's a very good idea.
To new ventures. And we will cut as Signe walks down the main staircase and back towards the drawing room to see what Cyrus is interested in talking about.
Yeah, she just gets some more tea, and she'll walk in, go to the tea cart, sure, and she will pour herself some tea and go, tea?
That'd be lovely, thank you.
Then she will pour him a saucer, and then come on over.
So, Signe, I just wanted to check in with you to see if I maybe had done something that was making you nervous or scared of me. It seems like ever since I made a comment on your drawings and we've been talking about your vision, it seems like you have been kind of eyeing me suspiciously, so I'm just making sure that I didn't do anything to offend you.
Have I? Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't think so. No, not at all, Cyrus.
All right,
She will
then.
sip her tea.
Yeah. All right. I just wanted to make sure that I hadn't done anything, made you uncomfortable, or sometimes I'm a little too maybe open with the knowledge of the occult, and it's something that's very natural to me, but because I've been around it so long, I forget that sometimes it is new and frightening to people. So
No, oddly enough, I find it comforting, your knowledge, knowing that we're not the only ones, or I'm not the only one, if that makes sense.
it does. It's when I was younger, it was the same for me, knowing that I was not the only one that was seeing these things and hearing these things, and it can be lonely if you feel that way.
She nods.
All right, then. I just wanted to check in with you and see if there was any air that needed to be cleared. But if you do want to talk some more about it, You always have my ear.
I'll keep that in mind, Cyrus. Thank you. Good night. And
Good night, then.
she will head
Finishes
out.
up the tea. And Cyrus will head off to bed as well.
We see Signe head off to bed. Everyone heads off to their respective rooms. Cyrus, is there anything you're doing before you officially turn into bed?
I don't, just kind of nightly. Before Cyrus drops off, he often changes into bedclothes, meditates for about 15 minutes, tries to silence the voices that he normally hears, and then lays down to drift off to sleep. But no, he's not doing any additional prep at this point. He's kind of holding off on doing anything until he gets closer to New Orleans. He just wants to get a better read on things before he starts digging.
That's fair. Signe, you are treated to the same nightmare.
Oh no.
A nightmare you had back on Fisher Island. You have it again. You can hear in the inky blackness of your dream void, you can hear the dripping sound of water. And eventually that drip, you see it visualizes into a color of red and sort of echoes out like sonar. And you see this color hit this puddle, bloop. And every time it goes, more and more color gets added, like Wizard of Oz. And you see an alleyway between two tall red brick buildings. The entire dreamscape you're in takes sort of a red hue. And as you look around, you see a street across from you, across from the alleyway. You see nameless, faceless, quite literally faceless, vaguely humanoid shapes milling about. In the street behind them stands an above ground cemetery. And in the alleyway, you see the torn and mangled corpses of your friends. You see throats slashed, rib cages ripped open. You see limbs bent at strange angles and blood pools in the alleyway. You realize that the dripping sound is not the sound of water dripping into a puddle, but it is the sound of the blood that is splashed all over the alleyway, dripping into the pools that have collected around you and your friends. And this time, there is a seventh form. A woman, you're fairly certain, judging by the hair, the attire. You can't quite make out her face. You see a strange pendant around her neck. You note it because it's not something commonly worn. You wear yours and you keep it close. It's not a Celtic knot. You're not entirely sure what the symbol is on this. You can't really see it from this distance, and try as you might, you can't get any closer to it. But you recognize it as something that just sticks out in your mind, and a new person that was not in your dream before. The sound of the dripping water continues. And as you wake in a cold sweat, you see above the basin in your room, the early morning wash basin in your room, there is a small growing brown spot on the roof, and a single bloop drop of water is falling directly into your wash basin, echoing the sound of the raindrop. Bloop, bloop. The next morning, steamer trunks are set out beside the door. Bags are packed. A dog is leashed. Everyone appears to be ready to go. Dresses are donned. Everyone has all of their belongings on their person, packed and ready to go. A carriage awaits outside. And you are taken to the train. The train busses along. It is chilly. Everyone is wrapped in warm clothes and scarves. It is the middle of November. Here in New England, the temperatures drop. It is a bit cold here. But the train trundles down through the coastline, through Connecticut. You see Hartford Pass, you see New Haven Pass, you see the coastline to your left as the carriage trundles through New York City and down south towards Pennsylvania, where you switch trains, board a new one, and you head west towards Pittsburgh. There in Pittsburgh, your carriage, your belongings are offloaded, transported for you to a riverboat headed down the Ojai River. As you make your way down the river, you make a port of call, and you transfer your things yet again to a steamship headed down the Mississippi to your final destination of New Orleans. That being said, at any point along the journey, would any of you like to attempt to gain an advantage? As per the mechanics of the game that we are all used to, and this is definitely for the audience and not for anyone here, on the way to a mystery, you'll be able to gain advantage, but only one per mystery. The advantage might be a new acquaintance who will be available at the location to help you, a mysterious experience that gives you power, or maintaining or training with your weapon on the way to the location. The advantage can also be you bonding with other players, which will later help you work together. Mechanically, you can use your advantage once per session, which will add a +2 dice to your skill test. And that's basically it. Some examples are, I have trained with my rapier day and night. Miss Silferdal seems to like me. I was blessed by an angel. I dreamed that I'd risked my life for my friends. I had a conversation with Captain Brungard to resolve our differences once and for all. Or the memory of Professor Brunelius's kiss. I can do anything with that. Obviously, Alec has already done some research, and his books give him an advantage. Usable. Does anyone else have ideas for an advantage they may gain between now and New Orleans?
So William, being in the Army Medical Corps, had received some basic weapon training. He had, he was an officer, so he had the standard officer's pistol. Because he went through the trouble to get silver bullets made, he is going to be practicing whenever he can with, just regular ammunition, off the stern of the steamship, taking shots at logs on the shoreline as they're moving and whatnot. Not necessarily, I mean, in his mind, he probably doesn't need the practice, but it's kind of like letting off steam, right? He's like picturing the incident in his head, and it's like therapy for him, which again, as he's learned, he's like started reading up on Freud and psychoanalysis and things like that, that are now coming to light at this time in history. So he's using that as a both therapy and crutch, and just keep himself from kind of losing his mind at this point, and try to not think about what they're heading into.
Okay.
So he's practicing with the pistol.
Okay. Do you want this +2 to be more of a focus-based thing or more of a shooting-based thing?
I'd want it to be a shooting-based thing.
Cool.
Because if in the instant that we ever actually have to do it, like he's got, the way his skills are laid out, he has all of that stuff, but it's just something we've never used and might never even use. But it's just the one thing that I could think of that would be good for him, and also kind of fits thematically.
You might use
freak him out some more. Alec didn't do that enough. Great.
So under advantages on your character sheet, you can go ahead and add a new one there called Crack Shot. Alec, you can add one under your character sheet called Wealth of Knowledge. Everyone else, would you like to try for an advantage?
I always have trouble figuring out what is something that she would be good something worth her time, or not worth her time, like that would be helpful to the group. Can I use the information from the Crescent Observer and create a list of names of people who could be potentially interviewed and sourced for information, essentially to give me a bonus to investigation?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll call it Crescent Contacts.
Okay.
So Martha, since she's from New Orleans, and is seeing Signe, poring over this Crescent Moon newspaper, she would start getting kind of excited to start sharing all the things that she knows about New Orleans because, now she's the expert in something, right? So obviously she wants to tell everybody all about it. And so she kind of, as Signe points things out, then Martha kind of regales Signe with all of these stories about specific places and draws little pictures, and she's really showing off her knowledge of New Orleans to Signe and anybody else who happens to want to listen.
Okay.
So I'm thinking something about knowing New Orleans or helping the group to know New Orleans.
Yeah. So add an advantage on your character sheet called Local Expert.
Okay, cool.
I believe is that everyone? Did Cyrus get
Nope.
one?
No,
I,
Cyrus.
I do have one.
Oh,
So
okay. Let's hear it.
as we get within, call it 3 days out from New Orleans,
Safely on a boat.
Safely on a boat.
Mhm.
I said each night, Cyrus is gonna set up a series of candles in his room, and he is going to reach out with his senses and see if he can do. So he's looking for two things. He's trying to get a feel for, can he get a sense of what is wrong, like essentially this, like what is the wrongness with New Orleans? Is it actually a Lugaroo? Is it something else? Whatever. So he's trying to kind of get any sense at all about what type of Vaesen we may or may not be facing. And if he can't get a great sense just on his own, then he's actually going to use what he saw of Signe's vision to use that as a focal point and try to get any sense or reach out to the spirits of anything that might be around that area, just to get any kind of sense at all about essentially what we're facing.
Okay. Do you want to actually roll for this?
I can do it. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do a seance.
Let's do a full seance for Cyrus.
I will do the full seance. Yeah. He will go for it. Let's see. That is, let's see, seance medium. Seance is observation, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah, so let's do that. And add one for my crystal ball, of course.
Is it one or is it two? It's one.
It's one.
Sorry.
It's one.
Yep.
It's only one. Let's see. And I'm not tracking anything, so yeah, that's just that one. That's fine.
No, everyone should be fully healed.
Did that roll? 2 successes.
Nice.
2 successes.
2
Make
successes.
that ghosties. 2 successes.
That's right. All right, spirits. You were completely useless to me on the last case that we were on.
Except
me
they gave you
s-
full visions of a tryst.
But
at the
not
end
every
there.
time, Michael.
My
I'm
God.
sorry. I'm
Look,
sorry
right
that
the
at-
last
didn't succeed.
episode.
Oh yeah, this is actually Cyrus is probably having that conversation. We gave you the vision.
Yeah.
At the end, when I
Yeah, we
was
could've
nearly
used that
dead.
day one.
They're arguing with you.
100%. He argues with the spirits all the time. That's kind of part of the course.
Okay.
But give me something, if anything. You've been to New Orleans before, and hovering around me while I'm trying to do my job. Give me something now.
This is interesting. 2 successes on this. Okay. Okay. You reach out, and this is like a collective over the 3 days, right? The 3 days that you're doing this. It sort of increases, you see more exponentially as you get closer.
Cool.
There is death all around you. You know of some of the history of the city, and there is death around you in every corner of the city. It is hard. That's why it takes 3 days. It is hard for you to literally swim through all of this. You have occupation of the natives. You have the pain and suffering of that. You have the war that has just concluded. You have the antebellum, the postbellum. You have the cholera outbreak. You have the slave revolt. You have so much death in and around this city. It's hard, and then what's happening now? It's hard to wade through and pinpoint the specific tragedy that you were trying to find. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone that you're contacting through this spirit medium wants to be heard. They want their peace. They want literally their peace. That you are reaching out and extending yourself. It becomes difficult to get through this, and only through the aid of the very flippant and wishy-washy spirits that follow you are you able to force your way through this. And you see, similar to what Signe saw, obviously not the same thing, but you feel almost like a pseudo astral projection. You're not actually projecting, but you can observe this with you, like you can feel like you're there through the streets of New Orleans, and it is littered with modern bodies. It is littered with people in the street. You see men, women sort of dashed against buildings, alleyways. It looks like a war was fought here in this city. And as you guide your spirit through the streets, trying to turn down alleyways, wherever your spirit companions are guiding you towards, there are certain places unavailable to you, which is not something you've experienced before in this sort of way. It's as if you are being blocked from turning down certain roads, like you hit an invisible wall. And you realize that from above there is light casting down on you. And at first you thought maybe this is a vision of the daytime. And on the final night, you see that it is not a vision of the daytime. And in fact, there is a silvery full moon glowing above you. That is the cryptic visions you get from here. Something is barring your spirit from going further. Something to do with the full moon. And mass death in the city of recent. Much more than what the letter transcribes to be. There have been several murders. It seems as though either there are a lot more murders than they are letting on, or there are a lot more murders to come. It feels like war, all-out war in the city. That is what you get from this. I will give you. I'll give you an advantage on here as well, since you were able to break through this. We'll give you an advantage called Spirit Guides.
Okay. Cool.
So your advantages are a +2, usable once per session going forward from here once you get to your actual destination. So without further ado, the final steamboat ride down the Mississippi brings you to New Orleans. The boat docks, dock workers come out, people shuffle off the boat, equipment is grabbed, boxes, crates, totes steamer trunks, luggage, etc., is all offloaded. And whoever has the letter, which would be Cyrus. Cyrus is the only person who has a letter because there's information that has not come out yet. So Cyrus has the letter. You open the letter and you see that hastily scratched on the bottom of it is the address for your patron.
Damn Boudreaux, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Madeline Boudreaux.
All right. Yeah, Cyrus would have shared that part, but all right. Well, what do we want to prioritize? Do we want to see our patron first, or do we want to try accommodations? That didn't work so well on Fisher's Island.
Well, I am hot. I'm sweaty. My clothes are sticking to me. We have to get somewhere where we can freshen up. We are certainly not going to visiting anybody in this condition.
You did say
Good
you grew
point.
up here in New Orleans, did you not?
That doesn't mean that we're uncivilized.
You just seem surprised.
Yeah.
That's all.
I am very well aware that it is hot and it is sweltering down here. That's all the more reason to freshen up before you go see somebody and visit them. I want to smell.
Martha has a point. Perhaps we should find a place to stay and make ourselves presentable.
Thank you,
We
Signe.
want to make good impressions.
Is our
Regroup and
sponsor
then
going
set out
to,
in the morning.
is our sponsor going to be offering us a place to stay?
The letter
No.
does say that.
Oh, it
The
does.
letter says, I humbly request your immediate assistance. Enclosed, please find my address and an offer of modest accommodation, should you accept.
Okay.
We can take a room for one night if that's what Martha would like us to do.
Yeah, how modest is modest?
We don't know yet. What time of day is it actually when we
Yeah.
roll in?
You would have arrived mid-afternoon.
Yeah, we can just hang. But sorry.
Get
Okay.
some food, possibly, maybe.
I think that
Now,
sounds delightful. Perhaps we'll find some beignets and some chocolate, and some little fried donut looking things.
Sounds interesting. And she will step off the boat.
I will say the food here is quite delicious, and not just sweet. They have savor as well.
Yeah, this is anyone who has not been here, which is I think
Just me.
Signe. Yeah.
That's right.
William, you've been to New Orleans, correct?
Actually, I'm gonna say no. He knows people from around here, people that he met during the war, but no, he's a New Englander. He's from up north there. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a very different kind of cuisine than Signe is used to, both in the Scottish tradition and also in the typical New England tradition. A lot of the food has ingredients like tomatoes, spices, butter is very easily accessible here, whereas it isn't in a lot of places. Salt pork is a huge component of food. Slow cooked meat, that is a commonality in Scotland as well, but corn, beans, a lot of slow cooked dishes, as well as seafood that is unique to this coast, this muddy coast, that Signe would not be used to seeing.
Yeah. And I think when she steps off the boat, she is kind of in awe, looking around. I've never been to New Orleans, but it just seems like it's a whole different breed and vibe of someplace that you won't see anywhere else, right? It's and she'll never see anything else like it again, so she's kind of in awe of what she's seeing.
Yeah, this is at this point in time, this is the third largest city in the United States. It is a massive worldwide trade hub. as I said, mostly for sugarcane. There are buildings as far as you can see in every direction. Like the only time you're seeing nature is the ocean behind you, and in garden plots around people, and the grass that lines the areas between the cemeteries. There are trolleys on tracks moving through the city, and there are the hustling and bustling of horse-drawn carriages moving in and around places. This is you've only passed through New York twice. This is by far the loudest city you've ever been in, and you thought New Arkham was the loudest city you've been in until this point. There is so much going on here that it can be hard to keep track of. You see a lot of multi-story buildings set in the Victorian style. You see a lot of wraparound porches on both storefronts. Buildings themselves. You see the houses are up on not like blocks, but they're up on like man-made hills to keep them off of street level kind of thing. And everyone is just get up and go. You see all of the dock workers are keel hauling all of the things off of the boats. You see the port here has dozens of piers, sailing vessels, huge galleons are here offloading and onloading various textiles, spices, sugarcane, crops, etc. Are moving. Everything seems much louder and busier than you are used to.
Yeah.
Where are you headed?
We will turn and wait for the others.
Martha knows a wonderful little spot where she won't be recognized, and might be slightly better than modest accommodations.
Okay.
Well, I say we should take a room for the night at this hotel that Martha is familiar with. And then it would likely be more polite to, accept the offer of our host.
I agree.
We could even possibly send a message to tell Madame Boudreau here that we are on our way tomorrow. That we'll be calling on her tomorrow.
That is an excellent idea. I agree with Alec.
Okay.
She was thinking about saying something snarky, and she did not.
So we're
Alec looked a
all
little
collectively
surprised.
so proud. Okay, you head down off the docks, making your way to the main strip, or one of the main strips, off of Canal Street, and you see what makes for a what was the word about the hotel you used, Martha? Above average.
Modest.
Better
I
than
think
modest.
better than modest. Yeah.
Yeah, better than modest. You see,
Cyrus only knows modest.
yeah. Everyone has their own definition of better than modest, ranging from Signe all the way up to Martha. And here you get to see what Martha's version of this is. This is a 5-story hotel. It extends with wings on 2 sides. You see a massive bright maroon awning with gold lettering on the front of it that says Chateau Nouveau. There is a doorman with a hat outside of this place and a large the same kind of maroon carpet waiting this out. You see people that look exactly like Martha, each carrying several steamer trunks. And by carrying, I mean there is usually a man and wife, you would assume, and somebody else who is escorting a trolley full of steamer trunks, bags, suit bags, dress bags, etc., into this place. And as you look around, much to Martha's credit, there are larger, more opulent-looking hotels. Comparatively, this one appears to be modest. Off the main strip of New Orleans. And Martha, you point out Chateau Nouveau as your one-night stay here in this modest hotel.
Perfectly inconspicuous, Martha. Good job.
Thank you. And I'm already planning what Wyla's going to be wearing.
Wyla
my
is in awe of this is the biggest building she's ever seen in her life, and then she looks left and there's a bigger one. But you all collectively march across Canal Street and into the carpeted entryway of Chateau Nouveau, and the doorman nods solemnly at you, opens the door for you, and motions you to enter. With a thick French Creole accent, he musters out "Entrez-vous," and you are all entered into this main lobby where you see a large desk before you, three women in neatly done updos are there. Behind the counter, you see a bevy of keys behind them, each on a hook, and a bunch of what looks essentially be like letter boxes. Like square letter boxes, each with a brass placard underneath them for the room numbers. It is easy enough to get a room if that's all you're interested in. How many rooms are you obtaining for the evening?
5 rooms?
I
Okay.
think it depends on what we can afford. I think
Yeah,
Cyrus is
like,
like following behind, just tipping the doorman and tipping anybody that like I'm assuming Martha just walks by, like, oh, thank you, and he's like, here, they spent
Yeah.
some money.
And
Here you go.
Signe has her arm, like her and Wyla are kind of linked arms, and they're strolling since they're the two fish out of water here.
I
Like-
love that it's Signe and Cyrus who are like, it depends on what we can afford, and the rest of the people come from well-to-do families
Yeah.
and are like, this is fine. This does appear to be modest.
This'll
Good
do.
call, Martha.
It's the nice clean red carpet as you walk in. That kind of like, ooh, can I afford this? I only have 2 resources and no capital, so I don't know. If I can afford this.
Signe's like, I slept in places that don't have floors.
Red dirt floors.
I think Alec's going to step up to the front desk and will order the rooms and pay for them.
Okay. You have enough capital and resources to do so. 5 keys are procured for you. Unfortunately, there are none in a block. So you will be scattered throughout. They were able to keep you to 2 of the 5 floors. So you'll be able to split that up. But you are split between those 5 rooms, split between the 2nd and 3rd floor of this place. Keys are provided to all of you, or 5 keys are provided to you guys to do what you will. The rooms, this is a level of hotel which I feel like Alec and William are not, I wouldn't say like very accustomed to, but like this wouldn't be your first stay in this kind of place, and same for Martha. Each room has its own internal plumbing. It's not a group situation. So this would be possibly a first for Signe. Your room has a bathroom and a shower. Or not a shower, but a wash tub. A wash tub.
Wow.
Yes.
A heated wash tub.
We don't
It's
even
called a
have
win-
that in
it's called a
Canada.
window, Signe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Air conditioning, called a window.
The irony is when you go a few blocks down, people are taking their wash water and throwing it out of the window of their house. So, it all depends on where you are in a city. So yeah, you are all sent to your individual rooms. Obviously, Martha and Wyla will share one. As you head out to your room, actually, Martha and Wyla and someone else will share one because you only asked for 5 rooms. So who else is sharing
1,
rooms?
2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That should be.
Oh
enough.
yeah, I don't
Plus
count.
Wyla.
I don't count as a player. That's right.
Yeah,
I was like, well,
You count
there's
as Wyla.
cameras -1. That's 6 people.
Alec
Yeah,
would have
so-
given Martha and Wyla the key to a room that is closest to one of the other people, right?
Sure.
So
makes sense.
Yeah,
even
like-
if they're not, yeah.
Signe would volunteer, or
right.
even like if we needed to, Signe would share a room with them if needed.
Okay. So we'll say that Signe and Martha and Wyla are all on the 2nd floor, a few doors away from each other. Alec, William, and Cyrus are on the 3rd floor, each in their separate rooms, sort of scattered across the floor. You are all able to take a break, refresh yourselves. There is a dining room at the lower level here that dinner is served promptly at 5 p.m. On this day. And you have a seafood plate of clams and a gumbo, buttered clams and gumbo. So that is your evening, unless you all would like to do anything else on your first night here.
Signe takes a bath in her private tub.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Water comes right out of it like a sink. Like you don't have to go get it out of a well.
Yeah.
And yeah. And
Just walk in.
the bath itself is copper, and beneath it is a small copper set of pipes that basically is like a stove range that heats up the water, so you can actually take a hot bath inside the room.
Really is the new world here.
It's really a wonder where we've come, how far we've come in just
We-
100 and
the
change
fuck?
years.
Oh yeah. So after this adventure, when we go back and can upgrade the manor, can we upgrade it with indoor plumbing?
Indoor plumbing, yeah, for sure.
Why is
After-
that
after
not
we
in
get
the
a
list
taste
of
of
the
it.
book?
Yeah.
How many build points? All of them. Don't care.
Oh.
Everything.
Whatever we have to spend to have baths.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
imagine that. Like less than 200 years ago, you had to go outside, fill up a bucket, bring it into your house, do that several times, and then boil it and hope it stayed warm enough to get 7 buckets of hot water to take a bath. And then the whole family used the one tub,
What?
one after another, once a week. Here we
so-
are.
It's our 23rd or our 22nd century, whatever privilege
Yeah.
is going right now.
Right? Living life.
Share
Um,
bath water.
What is everyone else doing, or are you doing anything collectively other than bathing, eating, and getting ready for the next day?
I think that Cyrus, goes into the room, is just muttering about like how unnecessary like this style of accommodations are, but he's reminiscing that his prior group, his prior Vaesen hunting group that he was with, the person that led that group was kind of a snob, and therefore they always had, in many places, they had very high-end accommodations. But he's still just like, this is so unnecessary, such a waste, but he runs the bath anyway and then just soaks. It's like, oh, this is so nice. So even though he's complaining about it, he is very much enjoying it.
Yeah. And I think Signe is like kind of going all out here, just because like I think she puts her bag down, and as she's looking at like taking some things out, she sees one of the charcoal drawings, and so she's trying to distract herself. So I'm also imagining they have their own like personal, I don't know what the actual term, but the record player with the huge
A gramophone?
gramophone, yeah, and it's playing some kind of local Cajun music or something like that. So she puts it on and she cranks the volume, and she's just like soaking in the bath, and she's doing everything she can to distract herself.
Yeah. William, Alec, Martha, are you doing anything in the city?
In the city, no. I think William would probably be just going to his room and passing out, without probably setting the 13 objects outside of the door this time.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's one thing in the
Most
manor.
important
Now
place.
we're in public now, so it's
Yeah.
It would just
There's
get
no
cleaned up by somebody, the night staff.
They just scoop it up like it's trash.
Like,
Like,
oh look,
how did
broken
this get
glass
here?
and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
A tip, coins, tip, nice. Alec and
Martha would have right after dinner gone and checked on Signe and make sure she knew how to use all of the contraptions in her room, and would have assisted if she had any issues with understanding how they all worked.
She would say no, but she would thank Martha.
It's a solid question.
Yeah, but she'd be like,
And then she would have gone back to her room, and also poured a bath after showing Wyla how to use it, and of course ordered at least 5 pieces of chocolate cake from room service.
Of course, as one does. Perfect. And Alec.
Mike, when Alec was doing research in the Men of Letters library, was there any reference to anything else there related to the Men of Letters, or any experiences Men of Letters had there in the, I think we have the annals of the Men of Letters, right? So there would have been, I don't know, was there mention of anything associated with the city?
New Orleans chapter.
You know what? I will say yes, and I will get back to you.
Okay.
I will write you up some New Orleans lore for this. Yeah, it'd be very interesting. A lot of the books and more recent things were lost in the whatever happened preceding the final expedition that Lenora told you about. So a lot of records have been, there was a fire in the manor, and something was lost in the fire. So not everything is 100% the way it was left when the Men of Letters was operational before. However, there is some lore about New Orleans, which I will write up and give to you. I'll put it in one of the books here.
Awesome.
Cool.
So I
Anything
think what
else
will happen, I think what will happen is that, they've been cooped up for a long time as they traveled. There hasn't been a lot of opportunity for rambles. So Alec is going to take a walk after dinner, along, taking a walking stick and top hat and the whole thing. Won't actually go into any buildings or anything, but is essentially taking themselves on a self tour of locations that the Men of Letters might have referenced in any of their previous documentation.
Okay, interesting. Okay, cool. So you take a walkabout, a walkabout through the city, getting a lay of the land, as it were. Okay, I will get back to you with what you find.
You find yourself dead from a werewolf attack.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Well, it's 5 o'clock. It's after dinner, right? So 5
Yeah.
o'clock, and so we have an hour or two and after dinner before dark, I think.
Yeah,
In November?
it's November. You got about an hour. You maybe 7 o'clock before it's the street lights come on, as they were. The lamps get lit by the lamplighters. Yeah, so you do a little walkabout. Yeah, you do a little walkabout. You survive. You survive the streets of New Orleans and return to Chateau Nouveau. Everyone, you guys can meet for a nightcap if you so choose, but everyone eventually goes to sleep and wakes the next morning, ready to move on to find your patron.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
I did. If it is possible to send a message with a messenger to deliver a note that we will be to the Boudreaux home that we will be arriving, or that will be showing up in the morning. I'd
Absolutely.
like to do that, but if that's not okay, I don't know.
You're in Chateau Nouveau. There's runners. They can do that.
I was I'm assuming there's runners, but I don't want to. Yeah, I want to.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So you know that Madeleine Boudreaux will be waiting for you on the morrow. So you guys are able to get up. There is a not exactly continental, but there's a slightly more than continental breakfast served in the morning, where you're able to get tea, coffee, etc. Have some parboiled eggs, that kind of thing. The eggs Benedict, and head out about your day. The chateau has offered to keep an eye on your things, in hopes that you'll stay another night, but in case you don't, so you can leave all of your bags and satchels full of books and clothes here if you so choose, as you get a carriage to the Boudreaux residence. We will pull up there, and that is where we will end this session. You pull up to the residence, the address that Cyrus has in the letter, and you see a 2-story Victorian house adorned with intricate ironworks and a surrounding garden, which is currently overgrown and somewhat neglected. As you walk through the iron gate, it creaks with a loud groan. You walk up the flight of stairs towards this porch, and you see stained glass in the door, in the windows of the door, and you see that there is a pull chain bell outside of this place. And as you give this a tug, you hear a noise, a sort of buzzing, ringing noise inside the house, and a man opens the door. You're immediately pulled back to Covencrest Manor and Niles. You see a similarly dressed man. The Butler Union of America has a pretty standard uniform. But you see a man in tails. He opens the door with the white glove treatment. And yes, who may I ask is calling?
This is Cyrus Kincaid, the mistress of the house. Asked us to stop by and have a chat.
Yes. Mr. Kincaid and party. Please, this way, into the solarium. And he opens a door and sort of bids you enter into the main foyer of the room, and he points off to one side where you see the solarium is a 3/4 circle room, atop which is wrought iron, basically a wrought iron bird cage, and the ceiling is all made of glass. You see in the top of the ceiling there are like dozens of hanging plants in here, and the room smells a little bit earthy, and you can hear the tittering of a bird, and you can see there are 2 or 3 cages all open. And the birds are sort of flitting around in the top of this place. The house itself is tastefully decorated with an eclectic mix of European and Creole style. It does feel spacious, but empty, similar to Covencrest, as though it used to hold more people than what it holds currently. And Cyrus, you notice that there are small talismans hanging like on a leather thong, just hanging off the thing, kind of like one would put a mezuzah outside their house. There's those kinds of pendants hanging, almost if you didn't know better, you would think they were wind chimes or things to catch the light, or dream catchers, those kinds of things. Yeah. Small talismans and protective charms are discreetly placed around the home. You have a feeling, Cyrus, that Miss Boudreaux has a tangential knowledge of strange things, or perhaps she believes in local legends and is protecting her house from the supernatural in the best way she knows how. You are led to the solarium, and you begin to hear footsteps coming down the stairs to you assume is Miss Madeline Boudreaux. And that is where we will end this session of Mundus Novus. Episode 26, titled Laissez bon temps rouler, which is the motto of New Orleans. Let the good times roll. That is where we end this. So let's go around, do our outroductions. For those of you new to streaming, it's basically the same thing. So we'll start with G. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
Hi, I'm G, your friendly neighborhood lightning invoker. You'll find me on all things Patreon for unMadeGaming, and you'll find me modding in all the streams. You'll catch me modding for tomorrow for Ask a Lich, so please come by and hang out, ask Mike a bunch of embarrassing questions, and he's forced to answer them. Yeah, you will catch me next weekend as our Patreon one-shots and Atari Twilight Age of Always. With Melissa here, we still don't have a date scheduled for that, but we will let you know as soon as we do. And you'll catch me in the Discord all the time. That's me.
Hell yeah. Next on my screen, Melissa, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
Hi, all. Melissa Meyer. I am Draftier in the Discord and here in Twitch. Not otherwise very much on social media. You can find my art that I've done for Mundus Novus on my website, which is gameswithstories.com, along with some other unMadeGaming fan art and stuff. I am a big fan, so if you're looking for me otherwise, you'll find me in Mike's chat whenever he has a cool story that he's telling, or for the Q&A that we have coming up on Monday. And I'm also a big fan of G's, so whenever I see her playing a game, I will be in the chat there too to watch, and so I highly recommend that you join. I think, yeah, that about covers it.
Uh-oh.
Yep, you're muted, Mike.
We lost your audio.
I sure am. Matt, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet, and what are you up to?
Well, the only place you'll probably find me on the internet is in Discord. I think in the unMadeGaming one, I'm just Bon, B-O-N. As far as where I'm at is usually in World of Warcraft, pushing mythic raids with our guild on Storm Rage, Puff Puff Pass. If you want to do mythic raiding, give us a holler.
That's the name of the guild. That's
Yep,
great.
Puff Puff Pass.
That's great. 10 out of 10. 3 years in, and I'm just finding that out. John, over to you. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
Sure. I really on the internet, the only place that I might be located is in the Discord. I am Ask Why on the Discord, or ASCII, depending on how old school you are. And yeah, other than that, all of my internet presence is mostly, watching videos, watching streams, and essentially wasting time when I'm not working. So that's about it.
Same. And last but not least, Wintress, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet? And what are you up to?
Well, in Discord, I'm Wintress Rita. Other than that, you probably can't find me on the internet on social much. I have the profiles, but I don't use them. Most of the I mean, you can go there and message me. I'll see it like maybe 5 weeks later, on like Facebook or LinkedIn or things like that. All the boring soccer mom things that, my generation did that are super lame. What I do as far as gaming is I do a lot of board games. And then I currently playing Baldur's Gate with Melissa, and then D&D with a group of y'all too. So
perfect. That is it from us. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it is a little bit unlike us to come in 2 seasons deep to a campaign, but we figured it was the start of the 3rd season. And what a better way to get Melissa into production on the back end. So huge shout out, huge thank you to Melissa for running all the production. I didn't know what to do with my hands the whole time because I didn't have anything to click on. So that was that was nicely frustrating to not have to do anything and just sit here and everything worked fine. So yeah, hell yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad you're learning this, and I'm happy to teach. And I hope everyone out there enjoyed this. If you guys have questions for the prior 2 seasons, we're all in the Discord. There's a new channel in there called Mundus Novus, the name of the campaign. And season 3 just got its name. Season 3 is called Waxing Crescent. So that'll be it from all of us to you. We will see you next month for more of these shenanigans. So for us, see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.